Welcome to Space
Erased,
the NASA Fraudcast. I'm your host, Chris, and back by popular demand is the always lovely co-host, Miss Rachel. How are you today, Rachel?
I'm great, Chris. Thank you for having me. The people have spoken.
The people have spoken. That's right. You had a lot of comments requesting you this week, so we brought her back for you guys. Welcome to episode 107. It's part 2 of a multi-part series we're doing on the flat Earth. And I have a feeling with as much subject matter there is to go over, this could be a long series. So at any rate, this is episode 2. Without any further ado, let's hop straight into the news.
Okay, Chris. So I recently read this article out of the most current, it's February 2016 issue of Glamour Magazine. The beautiful Jennifer Lawrence on the cover. And it is about 4 women astronauts who are planning on making the landmark expedition to Mars. And this is a mission that's at least 15 years in the making. It's going to take at least 15 years to accomplish, to build and test every last piece of equipment. So the article on the first page says, Mars is 35 million miles away. It'll take up to 9 months to get there if you even arrive. And then the article interviews these 4 women pictured here, and I'll read their names shortly. Interviews them, pretty much starting off with Jessica Meir. In first grade, Jessica Meir made a drawing of herself standing on the moon. Turns out she underestimated her own ambition. Today at 38, Meir could become the first human to touch down on an even farther destination, Mars. A next step for man? Yes, and a giant leap for womankind. So then it says the mission's 15 years away. It's the most hotly anticipated space exploration effort ever, and governments around the world in China, Europe, and Russia have plans in the works to at least land robots on Mars, while in the US, private companies like SpaceX are partnering with NASA on a human mission and plotting their own commercial trips.
See, we put people on planets. We don't put robots on planets.
Yep, we blow the bell curve, people.
It's
America.
all fake. Don't worry about it.
And it says, unlike the 1960s race to the moon, this time women are playing pivotal roles in building rockets, designing spacesuits, and controlling the remote rovers that are already sending momentous insights back from Mars. And you read that a woman indeed designed the spacesuit.
Yeah, actually there was a TED Talk about it. She's shoot, I cannot remember her name. I'm sure we'll find it, and I probably could find that TED Talk footage.
Find it
but
and get a picture of her.
It turns out, women are doing a lot of incredible things in the field at the moment.
And it mentions that for the first time, NASA's latest class of astronauts is 50% female. So that's a cool accomplishment. It says, a human landing will not, to put it mildly, be easy. The shortest route to our planetary neighbor is 35 million miles. Just getting there will take 6 to 9 months, a round trip 2 to 3 years. This will be, okay, so here's a quote. This will be the longest, farthest, and most ambitious space exploration mission in history, says Dava Newman, PhD, NASA's deputy administrator. Once they've landed, the astronauts will have to navigate giant dust storms, temperatures that can plummet to minus 284 degrees Fahrenheit in winter, and an atmosphere filled, listen to this, with cancer-causing galactic radiation.
That sounds so fake.
What do you make of that?
Galactic radiation.
Cancer-causing galactic radiation.
Danger,
an
Will
atmosphere
Robinson.
filled with it. Okay. So, and this is very interesting. If their equipment fails, NASA won't hear an SOS for 10 minutes, and there's no turning back. It's not like the moon that's a 3-day trip, said Jason Cruson, director of advanced exploration systems at the agency. When you go to Mars, you're going. You can't abort.
Yeah, so you're screwed if something goes wrong, I guess.
And, of course, they're very excited that they've found evidence of water, not just ice, but actual flowing water, or so they say, right? I mean, maybe they have, though. It says And yet the pull is irresistible. The rovers have revealed a land of swooping red dunes and craters, evidence of water, not just ice, but actual flowing water surfaced. And water is often considered a sign of possible life. Mars can teach us so much about the past, present, and future of our own planet, says Mir. That's a phenomenal thing.
You know what the coolest thing about all that Land Rover or the rover footage is? How much Mars looks like, let's say, Sedona, Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably filmed right there. Anyways, go ahead.
And we know firsthand.
Yep.
Yes. So, and these women, not to downplay, we're kind of questioning whether any space expeditions have ever occurred or taken place. What happens if they're not actually going to space, as some people believe? But we're not downplaying these women, and they're incredibly mentally and physically agile. In the magazine, it says these women have already flown combat missions in Iraq, braved the South Pole, and dived under thick layers of ice in Antarctica. So this is the women individually. I'll read their names. So it's Anne McLean, and they interview them in the article. I'm just going to briefly go over what each of them have to say. Jessica Meir, Christina Hammock-Koch, Koch. You noted something about that name.
Well, the Koch brothers right now are a pivotal part of this, the GOP side of the election here for, the presidency of the United States. And I just wonder, you've got Mason connection to NASA, and these guys are huge financial players in the elections. I wonder if the Koch brothers and this female astronaut with the last name Koch are possibly related. I don't know. We can follow
worth
up.
Looking into.
If anybody out there knows any information on that, let us know, and we'll put it in the next episode for sure.
And then the last female astronaut is Nicole Mann. So,
M-A-N or M-A-N-N?
M-A-N-N.
Double N.
Okay. So, and it says, I'll just read a brief bit, and then I'll go through each of them and highlight the most things I found most interesting. So, NASA inducts a new class of prospective astronauts every 4 to 5 years, and competition is fierce. As I was saying earlier, from application to acceptance, the process takes 1.5 years and includes intensive psychological and medical testing.
I just can't believe they have to wait 1.5 years to find out if they got the job or not. I've had to wait like a month at like the most, and that's aggravating and nail biting as hell, man. That's no fun at all. So these guys really get put through the ringer. And we were talking earlier, at what point do they get inducted to the fake part of this? Is there a point where they just get launched up and then, the CIA just comes on the intercom and goes, hey, listen, this is how it's going from here on out?
What I was honestly thinking as I was reading this, because I'll get into this quote from one of them that says about the isolation and everything, and how they have the technology to have like a giant video display, like a sandy beach, so they imagine that they're on the beach and everything. And I was just thinking, what if they just take this group of women who have agreed in one way or another, maybe they don't know really what's going on, but they just isolate them and brainwash them that they've actually been to the moon or outer space and show them these images. It's not that far-fetched.
There was an episode of Art Bell where he was talking to, I think, John Lear, which, again, John Lear's now been proven to be totally full of shit, but he said at one point the astronauts were interviewed, and they all kind of had the same, like, spotty memory. They're like, I remember being on the moon, but as far as specifics and things like that, I can't remember. I don't know. They're just, and all of these, they all share the same kind of memory loss. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that would be the most momentous day.
Yeah, how could
pretty
you
with your baby being born and your wedding.
Could you forget? It's like a car accident. Your brain should just record every detail because it's such a big deal. And
what's interesting about this article is that they really tap into the emotional aspect of it. Like this first quote by Anne McLean: there were more than 6,100 other applicants for our class of 8, and I'd made my peace with not getting in. I still remember getting the call that I'd been selected. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't talk. I started crying. She says she can't recall ever not wanting to be an astronaut, and she learned a lot serving 15 months in Iraq. This is not to say that she hasn't done these things. That's fantastic, and I'm sure she did serve in the Army. It does, though, tap into an emotional side to the reader. She says, I joined the Army out of a deep sense of duty, but wanting to be an astronaut feels more like my destiny. With so much conflict in the world, And this is the other theme of the article. With so much conflict in the world, space exploration can be a beacon of hope. No one cares about race or religion or nationality in space travel. We're all just part of Team Human. And an underlying theme in the article is kind of a sense of global unity. From this space exploration and this trip to Mars in particular. So we're all just part of Team Human. That's exactly what she says.
It's perpetuating the globalist agenda. I mean, like, you know, when I was a little kid and I fell in love with NASA, I mean, it was because the whole world could be brought together by seeing the Earth for the first time or landing on the moon or, you know. So I think, you know, NASA might be a very powerful tool to be used if we are trying to bring about a one world government.
And the thing I wanted to show you too is that quote is like the main, you know, it's what's the word for that? It's in the middle of the article. Someone come up with a name.
Oh
for
no,
that,
is it flipped in the camera? Could be.
But that quote, no one cares about race or religion or nationality in space travel. We're all just part of Team Human. This other. Let's go with Christina Hammock, Koch. We're just assuming is the Koch brother relative.
No, but we don't know that for sure.
No, we don't know that by any means for sure. We're gonna look it up. So she says, I had always set my sights on working with NASA, but I didn't want to get there by checking the usual boxes like learning to fly and scuba dive. I wanted to get there because I was passionate about science and the next frontier. Okay, so that's just an interesting quote. Nicole Mann says, she also served. My first tour in Iraq, flying fighter jets with the Marine Corps, helped me realize one day I might actually be a good candidate. And...
man, these are some tough women. They're all flying fighter jets and stuff like that. I mean, the wimpiest one out of them is about 10 times tougher than I am. So these are these are impressive people.
To be messed with. Yeah, absolutely. These are very strong women. During their 2 years of training, astronaut candidates learn space skills, flying T-38 supersonic jets that can go 20 miles per minute to practice operating a spacecraft, mastering tasks under 40 feet of water in a massive pool called the Neutral Buoyancy Lab to get used to weightlessness, and surviving what they call the vomit comet. So... Mir says when you put on a spacesuit, you weigh around 400 pounds. 2 people help you into it, and a crane lowers you into the pool. The whole 6-hour session is incredibly physically challenging. And that's to help practice.
All right, so you got about 30 seconds to wrap up the rest of this. Sorry,
okay.
we're woefully out of time on that.
And then I guess the other thing that I would wrap this up with... Oh, okay, Mir has another quote talking about what she can't live without on this expedition. She says, I'd need music. The Red Hot Chili Peppers. I would definitely request mixes from a few specific friends, and I try to get access to the New York Times. But the article ends with McLean and Mann. McLean says, also, from space, you can't see borders. What you see is this lonely planet. Here we all are on it, so angry at one another. I wish more people could step back and see how small Earth is and how reliant we are on one another. Man, just thinking about it gives me chills. And that's the end of the article.
So again, wrapping up the idea with this, one world government type of idea, which is not a bad idea. You'd have to be a cruel, horrible person to be like, no, I want division amongst the world and stuff forever and a half. But, that when they actually pull the pin on this thing, it's not going to turn into everybody holding hands and sunshine and good times. It's going to be somebody's going to be controlling all aspects of life, and now we all will bow before one leader, which that scares the crap out of me. But it's still being resisted, and we're still not a one world government, so good for whoever is keeping it at bay. So back
who does keep it at bay?
I have no idea, but I feel like the more shows like this pop up, the more I hate to say, like, Alex Jones on one hand gets people excited and whatever, but I think we've all pretty well seen now. If you go and look up like some of the CONINTEL pro stuff, Alex is pretty much, I think he's a plant from the CIA or something like that. I don't think he's a legit guy. He may have started as a legit guy, but now it just seems like everything he's peddling that, and he goes to peaceful rallies and starts yelling on his bullhorn and trying to start fights and stuff. He's a bad guy. I don't think he's a good dude.
That's the nice thing about our show is that we kind of peaceably discuss everything, each side, because as far as the flat earth thing is concerned, I'm not sold on the earth being flat or round. I don't have enough evidence for myself that I have gathered. I just know what I've been told, that the earth is round. And then I watch, videos that you show me and gain insight to other sides. But how could anyone really know positively one way or another from their own thinking? You just know what you've been told.
That's right. You'd almost have to get in like a little craft and fly away from the earth and take a picture of it. Oh, wait. Yeah, no, we're still waiting for that, by the way. But anyways, we're going to get into episode 107, Flat Earth Part 2. We ended the episode yesterday, ended the last episode. I ended it. Sorry, I was by myself on that one. By talking about Project Paperclip. So we'll kind of pick up from there. Paperclip, as I already talked about, was when we basically smuggled in a bunch of Nazi scientists after World War II and protected them from the horrible trial by jury that they were all going to be undertaking. I can't talk for some reason. But anyways, the next point we're going to get into now here is the maps. I found this to be fascinating. Turns out that obviously, if we're subscribing to the flat earth thing, then the maps all got to get thrown out. And it turns out that the map that we're all used to seeing, say, on like the chalkboard in the classroom when you grew up, that map is a distorted map. What they ended up doing apparently was they put that map together originally to make it simple for like ships going on routes and things like that. So you could like plot your journey and stuff on a flat map. Obviously, it'd be tough to carry a globe in your pocket. Sounds like a bad joke.
It is a bad joke.
Not gonna do it. Yeah. But anyways, the thing that I found to be super fascinating is this one called the Peterson projection. It wound up in a episode of West Wing, the TV show, and it also wound up on Oprah back in the 90s by the looks of the video. And we'll put that back up, or we'll put that on the screen here soon. But anyways, it turns out that the map we're used to seeing is extremely distorted as far as size of the countries being represented and continents, right? So the northern countries and continents and things like that are all represented to be much larger than they actually are. When you look at like the square miles of territory in each area, it turns out Greenland is represented to be similar size as like Africa or whatever on the map, but it turns out it's just like a sixth of the size of the continent. And you can see examples of this all over the place. Actually, one of the playlists we put together for NASA Fraudcast channel on YouTube it's called Maps Are Wrong, and you can check out, I think there's a couple videos in there now, really fascinating stuff. And it shows you, that'll be way more in depth on how the disparity between the sizes works out math-wise.
And Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they make Africa smaller to make it kind of insignificant? And
that's the point. They put the white countries and all this stuff up on top. They represented them as being much larger than they are, and they took the black and brown countries and they made them smaller. They all this stuff is to implant racism in you as a child, like so transparently. When I found out like that it was being used as a method of making people prejudice, that blew my mind. I mean, it's like so fundamental in your education to look at maps and things like that and to learn geography, where you are on the planet, where what your country looks like.
The earth is round, but really how does anyone know? That's just what we've been told and what's been repeated to us since the earliest age we can remember.
Right.
I'm not saying it's flat, we're round.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, in the comments section, I've kind of had to take the standing that I am, I hate saying the titles, but, I guess you could describe me as being a flat earther. I'm starting to more and more subscribe to that idea, although, just like evolutionism, creationism, all this stuff, I wasn't there to see it. I can't jump in a spaceship and go out there and see it, and I'm one of those guys that need the burden of proof. And I have to see it. I hold it in my hand.
Irrefutable evidence, yeah, and we don't blame people who think the earth is round. That's what everyone's been taught. And I think for me personally, to try to wrap my brain around the flat earth, just even the idea of that is, and for most would be very difficult just based on it being ingrained in our system.
Yeah, well, I think that's why the first reaction, and I mentioned this in the last episode, first reaction everybody gives you is anger. Because it's first of all humiliating and very frustrating to find out that what you've been told your entire life is complete bullshit, nonsense. And
why?
I've become addicted to this feeling as a researcher into conspiracies. I love feeling dumb because every time I get that feeling, I know I'm onto something really cool. And I think anybody who clicks any link that says flat Earth for the first time is totally laughing to themselves in their head. But I think the evidence becomes pretty compelling after a while, and I'm still researching it after months and months. I really like the topic.
What do you think would be the purpose of them lying to us like just on the shape of the Earth?
What I want to say is control. I think it all comes back to control, right? So you control how people learn, you control what they know, and I think they're implanting the idea of us being on this lonely little globe out in the middle of this gigantic, impossibly huge solar system, where even the closest stuff in our solar system is so far away that it just makes it seem like, oh, you better just come to us and eat out of our hands. We're in control. It's okay, No, it turns out that there's land that we haven't discovered that that's being hidden from us as the regular man walking around on Earth. The people out of the know. There's supposedly a whole, according to Admiral Byrd, I talked about that in the last episode. There's a whole continent the size of North America that's hidden beyond the ice wall of Antarctica when you fly due south of North America, and the way he describes it, there's no other way you could interpret it as him talking about a flat globe or a flat Earth, because you'd just be going over the top of Antarctica and then coming back out on the other side. That's not how he made it sound. He made it sound like you go down there and you keep going and you're in a new place now. That's pretty interesting.
What do you think they're gonna say as far as aliens are concerned in order to unify the world and go with the new world order?
Well, you see, they're basically like impregnating the media these days now with shows like Ancient Aliens on the History Channel and a lot of shows of the like. It's getting people used to this idea of like, oh, well, yeah, I guess I could see how maybe aliens were here in the past, so why wouldn't they be here now? It doesn't make it. And I think that's such like an easy way to slip it into our society, into the conversation. Because again, if UFOs just show up, that's going to freak people out. So if we kind of warm them up gradually by saying, hey, we found some artifacts over here that show that, these guys were wearing space helmets and shit. Must have been aliens as a part of, maybe they put us here. That's that Zachariah Sitchin's theory of like, we're a slave race. We're here to just mine gold for the aliens. And, they're on the top of the Illuminati pyramid and we all work for them. And I don't know. That very well could be the case. The more I study about all this stuff, it very well seems like the Illuminati pyramid has to lead to somewhere. Is it man at the top, or is it a different race? Maybe the powerful elites are pulling the strings for the aliens.
And this is on another trail, but these elite people and like people in the Illuminati and these elites that supposedly like worship Satan, if they're evil worshipers, then there's got to be a good, right? There's got to be a god or something, or like a pure good and light. And
well, I said this in another episode, so I have to be careful about how we say this, because you'll get like, there is a religious aspect to the flat earther community, because the firmament and a lot of these subjects come directly from the Bible. So what I said before in another episode that got me in trouble is that I don't subscribe to any religion personally, right? I don't believe in anything. I'm not an atheist. I'm not an anythingist. And I hate the fact that I'm sure that is a somethingist, like, oh, he just doesn't want to have anything to do with any of this. Oh, you're one of these kind of people.
Nihilist.
Don't throw me in a freaking box. Nihilist. But anyways, that being said, this is where I got in trouble last time. They heard me say that and they flipped out. Hey, man, if you don't know anything about religion, don't freaking talk about it. Well, turns out this guy here has I've got 13 years of theological training or whatever. I went to a Christian school. I have had in spades
your whole life
way too much of that information. So I'm definitely aware of it.
He's very well versed. You've read the Bible cover to cover and
multiple times.
Subscribe. So
I personally I don't know. I'm a guy who likes evidence and stuff like that. So I don't know. I'm not here to offend. I think people's religion is extremely important, and especially as a basis, as a moral foundation in society, religion couldn't be more important. So I'm not here to bash anybody's religion, and if something from the Bible has something directly to do with flat Earth, you better believe we're going to talk about it here.
Yeah, and because you know that I'd really like to believe that there's a God and that, you know, everything in the Bible is, or at least that there's a God, but...
Right, just like, you know, the NWO thing being like you know, it could be a good force for good, or it could be a force for whatever, you know.
Man, it's gotta be a force for evil. You hear George Bush Sr. with his little, a new world order we can forge the way. He's so...
And when we're successful, we will be.
And we will be.
God. But anyways, the whole point there is, like, I think it'd be nice to think that there's a God out there that's looking out for me and all this stuff and paying attention to what I'm doing, but I don't know. I personally don't see it. However, I'm not saying anything about how you believe or how you believe.
I'm offended.
Yeah. People get offended very easily, and I think that's because they probably aren't listening very closely in some cases.
Everyone's so sensitive. Go cry about it.
Right? Because I do pad a lot of what I say by saying, I'm definitely not an expert. We're interested parties. We're people that are
discussing this.
Yeah, we're having an open forum here, and we're doing it live so people can see us make mistakes, and we're here in our human presence. You know, take it as you will. So moving on. So the maps are horribly distorted, which you would imagine from just taking something that's a sphere and putting it down on a flat piece of paper. Anyways, this stuff is going to get thrown out of proportion. But it definitely appears that the northern European white countries are represented as larger. They're on top of the map when really it's a sphere. You could flip the Earth upside down or whatever in space. There's no orientation. Gravity draws you to the center of the sphere, so it's not like there's technically an up or a down. So we're representing the map as, oh, whites are on top and all powerful, and these guys down here are, you know, insignificant and whatever. And that is very powerful because, you know, I definitely wouldn't say I'm racist, and I don't think Rachel is here at all either. But
you don't think?
I don't think. Yeah, you should hear some of the stuff. No, I'm just kidding. But it's a, you know, like our you could say your parents, you know, from that generation and above, especially a grandparent, listen to how they talk about people. It's definitely apparent that, you know, people were raised in a very racist fashion at once upon a time, and it was okay.
And how could you not be, too, when there's a sign that says, you know, one group of people here and another group of people here? It's fucking bullshit. Sorry. Right. Pardon my French.
So that's where I'm all for the New World Order, is bringing people together in that regard. But again, like I keep saying, I don't think the powers, the elites are going to fuck that up somehow.
It's that they have so much money that they just want power, and not for good, for evil, because they want maybe not even power for evil, but just control of everyone. That's what I think, right?
That's right. They want control. They want the
money.
Because
what comes after money is power and control.
Right, yeah. If you had all the money in the world, what would you do next? I mean, I think a lot of people would start screwing with other people, yeah, because now I can influence what happens in this person's life.
I'd infiltrate your brain.
So anyways, we are running low on time here. We're going to run a little bit over, but that was important to point out there. Anyways, the map. The last thing about maps is you go, hey, what about Google Earth? I see this. I click on the satellite thing, and I'm seeing satellite images of the United States. I'm seeing it of the world. I'm seeing, you know, I can look at the moon. I can look at around the solar system. Turns out Google doesn't have a satellite. They use 3 different things to composite all those images together. They use blimps or dirigibles, of some fashion. And they use airplanes or drones and things like that. And then they use that Google car thing with the mess of cameras all over it, taking pictures in every which way, like 360-degree field of view. They use that and then they label it satellite image, or view or whatever, but it's totally misleading because they do not have satellites. And that's to the best of my research. So if one of you guys out there has a link to anything that talks about Google-specific satellites, I'd love to see it, but I haven't seen it yet. I just did the Bernie.
I'd
love to see it.
Have you seen the people that have those
10%, the 1%?
They have headgear, and they like work for their agents for Google, and they're walking around like for Google Maps, like filming shit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've seen one of them.
That's probably for the street view thing, because they use the cars,
yeah.
And maybe they use people, too, to supplement that visual information. But anyways, I thought that was very interesting, because that is misleading as heck, to click on that satellite view, and it's not actually coming from satellites.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So the blue marble, NASA said they admitted this isn't like something they're hiding. This isn't us being conspiracy tinfoil hat wearing crazies. They said it out loud themselves that these are composites because the satellite will go around our bullshit globe Earth and take pictures in like strips. Think of like a fruit roll-up strip going all the way around or whatever. So they give it to a guy like me who sits down at a computer and ties all those images together and makes what's called a composite image. And, the guy that's in the video talking about, how he put the blue marble together, he's talking like Photoshop lingo. He's like, well, the clouds didn't look right, so I pulled those out. Then I added a little bit here with this hue, and then I did this over here. And inherently, just in how the pictures are taken, there's little gaps. There's little spaces that are missing, so information just doesn't exist there. And the guy's totally cool with saying, like, yeah, I took some creative liberty and filling in these little gaps. We brightened up the ocean to make it look a little bit more like, and this, that, and the other thing. But, he said, well, we definitely, we have to Photoshop it. It just couldn't be presented any other way. So they're definitely telling you that, but they sell it to you. They make it kind of sound just by twisting the words without lying, because they are saying composite, but by the way that they present it, it sounds like somebody went out there with a camera and took a picture. Completely bullshit. It was not taken with a satellite. And CNN just a few weeks ago came out with their, Blue Marble Part 2, basically, by, they put a pretty lady up on TV. I notice this every time CNN wants to break, every time NASA wants to break something on CNN, they always pick a pretty reporter. I don't understand why, but it's always a pretty lady that goes, here's the, the next lie that we're telling you about this, that, or the other thing.
Why would they do that?
I don't know. It's to, it's the hot woman theory that I'll get into later, but I swear it's like, it's the herd mentality of the popular hot girl at high school or whatever, like they would never be into something dumb. So if you got her saying it, that's why, I don't know, that we'll get into it on a different episode, but I thought a damning evidence for the Phoenix Lights is that you had hot like cheerleader girls talking about the Phoenix Lights. I was like, well, then they definitely happen, because hot girls never talk about alien stuff. They would never get caught within, a city mile of that stuff, because that's crazy, right?
I'm talking about it.
That's right. The hottest female in the conspiracy movement here. How do you like that title? We'll give it to you. We'll bestow the title this evening here on the show.
Thanks.
Anyway, so we have run a little long on time here with this episode, so let's hop into the Q&A real quick. Let's see that sweet Q&A graphic. All right. Jason Mosley says, solo mission. We here with you, bro. Oh, that was because I did the show by myself last episode.
That's awesome.
Well, thanks for hanging in there with me, Jason. That's awesome. Glad to hear you like the show. Del Bedinati? I don't know. Sounds like a sweet Italian name there. He says, sorry, love the NASA fraud stuff, but honestly, I'm a flat earther. Lol, anyways, have a good weekend. Iron sharpens iron, I guess. I kind of get that. Yeah, it's like he sees them as not being, or as being mutually exclusive. That's fine. Here with the show, we just, we think that the easiest way to proving the flat earth, or that there's something up with the flat earth, is by showing you the obvious, which is that NASA is being fraudulent with what they're presenting, be it photo or video evidence, or the International Space Station, or moon landings, all this stuff. When you start poking holes in that, then you start poking holes into the narrative that we've been fed, throughout the last 40, 50 years.
Have you pointed out yet that video, the scene in The Shining with the boy wearing the Apollo sweater and tied it in with the theory? There's a great video, people who believe Stanley Kubrick faked the moon landing, and that there's some evidence in The Shining.
I
that picture.
Strongly believe that either Kubrick or Disney or both possibly had a heavy hand in the production of the moon landing. And I think they filmed a lot of it and then just kept using that footage over and over and over again. They could have filmed all whatever landings. What was it, 7 or 8, right? Or 6 or 7 different landings or missions to the moon. Maybe it was less. I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head. But, they could have filmed them all in one batch and just cut them up and then just presented them to you every 1 or 2 years. Because all the footage looks identical. It doesn't, it's not like, hey, this time we brought a really sweet camera with us that shoots in color. I don't understand how they have a color camera inside the capsule and then they have to walk outside with a black and white camera. It's like, come on, just take the nice.
Yeah.
Dude, we just were watching you in color 5, 6. Grab the shitty camera. Let's go outside and film the moon, guys. All right. Del Bendenati again says, awesome. Thanks so much. Yeah, screw contention. Let's just focus on research. We can't deny that the flat earth movement is probably led by shills, but it is what it is. Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of fraudulent. I think a lot of the channels that are out there are just deliberately disseminating disinformation. We constantly ask you guys, if you catch us saying something that's not correct, please, politely let us know.
Cool.
Yeah,
he says, awesome. Thank you for what you do. Truth must prevail. Thanks.
Woo!
We like Del.
Del's a good dude.
We like all of our viewers.
Or girl. I can't tell from the picture here. So I'm very sorry if I've been calling you a guy this whole time and you're not. But anyways,
yeah,
you are awesome.
I can't see the picture either.
I see long hair, but it's very the picture. It's a thumbnail. It's very hard to see. Yeah. Oh, sweet. I'm also a musician. Good to see another fellow musician out there. Barry White. Hey, we saw you in another video. He says, I've been into this also for the past couple of months intensively. I've watched hundreds of videos of this by now. Oh, yeah, he says, here's the first program I watched that shows the flat earth on the back of a turtle. Why try to make people look foolish? It's a turnoff, da-da-da-da. I think with the last, and I wrote here in the comment, in that episode, I was just pointing out like a what would you call that?
Nonsensical kind of theory.
Yeah, it was to show you the whole spectrum. There you go.
A range of theories.
Yeah, so from the logical to the not so logical, that's what I wrote there. LBB Store writes, good job holding the fort down. Yeah, all these people were liking dude doing the show solo. I might have to do that again sometime.
Bring back Rachel. Oh my God.
Yeah, but there's, right below that says, great show, loved every minute, would prefer hour-long shows. Bring back Rachel.
NR1 Marius.
NR1 Marius, instant gratification.
Thank you, NR1 Marius. Who's that other guy that wanted to email me?
I don't know. Some dude on another video seems to have has taken a liking to you. He's just got that magnetic personality. Anyways, I think we have run way over time here, guys, but I appreciate you hanging in here and enjoying the show along with us. It's been super fun tonight. To answer dude's question there, the reason why we keep the show to a half hour is just so we can edit it fast enough to get out to you. We all have day jobs and stuff as well, and we want to get as much content out to you as quickly as possible. So in the future, maybe if the show gets sponsored, I'd love to do hour-long episodes. I'd do 3-4 hour-long ones. But
thank you, by the way, for that sweet thing you said.
No problem.
And thank you for having me, Chris.
We're all about flattery. Well, thanks for being a part of the show, Rachel. You are always welcome to come back. We're going to play that lovely outro music here in a moment. But remember to check out NASA Fraudcast channel on YouTube for updates and new videos. Content is always coming out. Also, be sure to email us at nasafraudcast@gmail.com. Again, that email is nasafraudcast@gmail.com. No spaces, all lowercase. And I think that's pretty much all I got. Check out the new commercial, the new advertisement, or trailer number 1 as it's called, on our website or on the YouTube channel.
Do it.
And share it with a friend. Get this message out there, folks. Anyways, we love you guys. Thanks for watching. I'm your host, Chris.
I'm Rachel.
And thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you for watching.
See you next time. Let's do a handshake. Let's do this right.